Hey everybody, welcome back to Ready Steady Play. We are doing final thoughts on Outer Rim, the Star Wars game from Fantasy Flight Games.
I lost.
On the final hour. Bosk doesn't like to lose.
I really enjoy using that.
I'm not going to get tired of these tables.
No. Really.
And I won, which is good because I was the only good guy.
Oh yes, the rebels. I guess you're going to go off. We go and join the rebels, even though everyone hates you.
I basically decided that instead of being the Jyn Erso from Rogue One, I wanted to be Han Solo. So I got the Millennium Falcon, gave it a smuggling compartment, hired Chewbacca, and off I go.
Wow, I didn't realize just how thematic you were. And you did the Kessler run.
Yeah, exactly, to win.
How you won. Wow.
I was pretty. The only problem was I wasn't Han Solo.
Yeah, that was the only issue there. I'm Han Solo. Sorry. I'm sorry. Oh dear. Well, yeah. Okay, cool.
So we just finished playing Outer Rim. If you haven't seen it on the channel, check out our gameplay episodes. But if you're just here for the final thoughts, this is a sort of take on a bit of a sandbox game, a bit of a pick up and deliver. Well, actually, it's a lot of a pick up and deliver game. Yeah. And with various different sort of pick up and deliver mechanisms.
Yeah. I mean, when you first told me it was a pick up and deliver game, my initial reaction was to be, generally speaking, I don't like pick up and deliver games. As a disclaimer, I was pleased that it's not purely pick up and deliver. There are other ways to get points. Fighting jobs can be other things like. I know that going to a particular planet and doing the Kessel Run or the jewel heist, whoever it was, it's essentially. I mean, it's still going to a specific place to do a specific thing. Mm-hmm. But it's still.
This is more like a quest, right?
Exactly right. So that's
because then you get these optional
quests.
Chains to complete.
There's things like kill. Like I had one where I just killed you on the ground. I beat you up, and that got me points. You can fight. What are these guys called? The bounty.
The patrols.
The patrols. You got quests. You got patrols. You got attacking enemy players, and you got pick and deliver, and then you've also got the bounties, which are potentially combats, which then you can add to pick and deliver onto them for a bonus if you want. Mm-hmm. So there is the only one that's pure pick and deliver is the cargo, and you can ignore that, and you can win this without ever doing anything.
Actually, cargo is largely the least good if you want to win. You need to do illegal cargo smuggling, basically, if you want to earn fame doing that.
Yeah. So so it's not even though there's a lot of pick and deliver in it. It's not so pick up and deliver if I could somehow have known without playing it, if I could somehow have the knowledge I have now about how pick up and delivery it is, I would not dismiss it as a pick up and deliver game.
Yeah,
which is nice, which is good. So I'm really pleased about that, and as a result, I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought if I told you it was pick up and deliver, your expectations would be low, and you'd be pleasantly surprised.
I'd already heard it. My friend Richard bought this, and he's very excited about it. He hasn't played it yet, and he says pick up and deliver, and I was like, oh. And then like 2 days later, you told me we were going to play, and I was like, oh. So
I think a lot of people are very interested in what this is about, because it's very thematic in terms of a very niche part of Star Wars. It's actually a highly thematic part of Star Wars that's not really featured in Star Wars very often.
Yeah, one day they'll do it. Well, I haven't seen. Have you seen the Solo film?
I haven't seen the Solo film, actually.
Maybe that's presumably that's about him smuggling. Presumably,
I presume that's sort of about that, yeah.
I'm obviously it'll go, but
maybe this is very Han Solo.
You also, not speaking for you, but you also don't like pick and deliver games, right?
I'm not the biggest fan of it, to be honest. I'm not actually a huge fan, typically, of sort of like sandboxy type stuff as well. I find often it results in a lot of downtime, or you're watching somebody just sort of win at a rate you can't keep up with. There's very little player interaction.
I think this handles the sandbox element better than something like, say, Western Legends. Mm-hmm. I think this is a little bit more not on rails. But
what it feels like is it feels like all the avenues are more evenly balanced.
Yeah, I think so.
Western Legends felt a bit like some of the avenues were just way more productive than others, or less random, or more consistent. Whereas this does have quite a lot of randomness to it, but because it feels quite well metered out. like Ollie, who should be winning a lot of conflicts, had a couple where he lost, and it was like, whoa.
And he got this lucky kind of little circle of points, but then he kind of stonewalled. Whereas
he stalled out.
I took a long time to get going, and then it kind of made a big jump, and then kind of stopped a little bit. Whereas you were kind of a stop start kind of thing.
I was like, points, points.
Oh. But you also had a couple of moments where you did nothing for a turn or two. Like, you got really stuck at one point on that duel thing.
Yeah,
and I beat you up and you wasted a turn.
Yeah.
So I think, so the fact that it didn't seem to have a runaway leader problem, right?
No, I don't think so at all.
Because it's things that are worth 2 points, and if you can build up your crew... like
typically it does. The first time I played it, someone really checked out, because I just think they weren't really enjoying it, and as a result, it just got expounded. Because they weren't really doing anything efficient, they weren't making really particularly good choices.
When I was in that position, if I'd actually acted upon feeling like... I felt like I was potentially out of it pretty early on, but I didn't act like it. I still tried.
You still tried, yeah, exactly.
And I got
but if you had been less willing to sort of make an effort, it would have become a lot worse for you, I think. Yeah,
and for everybody, probably.
And for
everybody.
Well, to an extent, there is as much player interaction in this game as the players want. There's some bounty hunters that really reward hunting other players, and some that just don't really incentivize it.
Yeah, like things like him stealing droids, and I at one point when we started the game, I kind of got worried, thinking, "Oh, is this just going to be it? Like, are they just going to keep coming at me a bunch of times, and I'm going to try and come at them a few times? Is just going to become us logging heads?" And I didn't want it to become that. And I'm glad it didn't. Like, in fact, the only time any of us understand each other, it was me who did it. And I did it to the person who ended up winning.
You did it for a reason as well.
Yeah, and but you didn't. It didn't screw up horribly.
And there was also that moment, I think I was doing a mission like this, and I really shouldn't have succeeded it. I really needed a crit on my last roll. I was going to die and crap out. And I got that crit, and it was quite elating.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't...
That's what DICE do.
It wasn't the jewel heist, but... It's something like that.
That's the potential that DICE add to games, right?
Well, sometimes it's cards, but, it's that kind of gambling risk factor.
Yeah, exactly.
I do enjoy that element sometimes. I enjoy it a lot more when games are easier going and more casual. And I think I quite like it in this.
The gambling, that elation feeling.
Yeah, I think it fits well with this. This is sort of quite solidly in my beer and pretzels camp.
Yeah.
And I do think that overall, I'm having a hard time pinpointing, because you and I were saying that we were a bit worried about, for example, the illegal cargo, where you actually only have a 3 in 8 chance of succeding at your delivery.
Yeah. So I despise that mechanic. The one thing that's not going to make me as a pick up and deliver, what's the opposite of a fan? Detractor. The one thing that's not going to win me over is adding a sense of random chance to whether that delivery works. I'll go on the record and say whoever thought of that was having a foolish moment.
But to be honest, the thing is, so we got to remember that and this is actually a nuance that I hadn't picked up on in my previous plays of this, but you don't actually necessarily fail outright, right? You draw one of these cards, and then you check your result on this.
I hate it.
Trade.
I still hate it. It's awful. Just let me deliver. If you're gonna have the mechanic as boring as pick and deliver, just let it happen.
Well, let me. Well, I agree with you. I'm pretty much entirely in your camp, but just permitting me to play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
What I did do,
because Ollie's not here and he liked it.
No, Ollie did like the game, and a lot of my friends do like this game as well. And a lot of them are big Star Wars fans. So I do think that the theme, and this is a very thematic game, does sell it to a point.
Yeah.
Because I had the Millennium Falcon and because I had this smuggling compartment, I actually could no longer fail at the pick up and deliver quests at all.
That's cool.
And so the game does give you some options to mitigate that if you decide to pursue that path.
Yeah.
And in order to get the Millennium Falcon, I had to succeed at illegal smuggling.
Yeah, you have to work for it. Yeah.
So you have to work for it. And I do enjoy that sense of having progressed and improved my ship and sort of built up this crew of characters. And Chewbacca and Hera are both characters I know from the shows.
I think that's why you ultimately won, because I got... we actually both had 6 points up until you won, just before the end. But I had 6 points and basically a mostly weak engine.
Yeah.
And you had 6 points and a powerful engine.
Well, I could move up to 9 spaces a turn if I
it's crazy.
Passed Hero's roll, which is nuts.
Because despite it being pick and deliverers, that made me come into it with kind of like expecting to not like it very much in a way. Despite that, I feel it does the sandbox element better than Western Legends, which has one pick and deliver aspect to it, where you can choose to rustle cat to pick up and deliver
cattle rustling
for points.
Well, isn't the
And
gold mining also pick up and deliver that?
Oh, it is a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah, because you're collecting the nuggets and bringing them to the bank.
True. So it's got as much probably pick up and deliver, but a theme I probably would enjoy more, and I think I enjoy certain elements of that game a lot more. And yet, I would rather play this one again as my Beer and Pretzels thematic sandbox pick up and deliver game. I would much sooner play this one again, despite the fact that on paper this has more, quote unquote, from my perspective, wrong with it. So I think that's a certain credit to it. I would play it again. I don't think I'd be opposed to it. As long as we play the short game, I don't see a reason to play to 10 or 12 points.
What I was about to say was that, I think one of the things I like about this is typically the fast turnaround of the turns. And we're shooting a show on a schedule, so you may have noticed we were speeding up as we were playing. And I do think that benefits it, actually. I think it can become... I can see people, when they are not on a schedule, taking a long time with their turns, and that can really drag this game out.
I think 3 was a good number for it as well.
3 was a good number for this, yeah. I played it with 4 previously, and that felt like a bit too many, and one of the players checked out, so... But I do think that the sort of the fast, punchy turns really benefit it. I feel like the turns in Western Legends take longer, probably because you have more to parse. Whereas this is like, here are your 3 steps. Do a thing, do a thing, do a thing. Yeah. Or do a thing, do 2 things, and maybe do another thing.
And it's not too the turns aren't that complex, but there's still quite a decent amount of variety and choice within them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And so it's enough to keep you engaged, but not so much that you're just like, what's going on?
What's going on?
And that's really helpful for it. Oh, you mentioned the turn length. Yeah, I think 8 is the recommended starting one, and then you play up to 10 in a standard game, and it says, why not try an elongated variant going all the way up to 12? I don't really see much need for that. I think that 8 is fine.
It took us a couple of hours, right? We'd had literally pretty much spawned 2 hours in to play. Yeah. Which feels like a good length.
Yeah. And I don't see any real need to carry on up to 10.
And considering how quickly it escalated, I feel that going to 10 would probably only take an extra 20 minutes. And going to 12 would probably only take an extra 30 minutes in total.
Yeah, probably.
If you were playing at a decent clip.
But also, like, when we found when we were going up to 10, like, some of us had just amassed so many credits. Like, I had all of these credits that
nothing to spend on.
And not really anything to spend them on, Yeah. Like, it would have been fun to grab another crew member or do another cargo thing, but
it's basically the same thing. Cheap, right? The ships are expensive. Some of the mods and some of the gear are pretty expensive, but like recruiting the crew is usually 1,000 or 2,000, and you can often get them for free if you fulfill certain parameters and certain conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do like the mechanic of the crew mitigating your dice. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, the engine building aspect is fun. It's good.
And it's something actually that I didn't really pick up on the real sort of potency of until I've played a few times. And you see the jobs telling you the skills you're going to need, and you can kind of parse how likely you are to be able to complete something.
Pay attention to.
Yeah, Ollie even pointed it out, and I still...
He did. And I heard him. I took it in what he was saying, and then it was like, forget that.
Yeah. I completely forgot it when I had the Jewel of Naboo, and it wasn't until Ollie looked at the Kessel Run and said, I don't have any of those things. And then I just looked down at my board, I was like, I have basically all of those things. Because Ollie was literally like, tactics, influence, piloting, strength, I have none of these things. Oh. And actually, he kind of threw me off, because there's knowledge on here as well, which I don't have, and Ollie didn't mention.
But you succeeded anyway.
I succeeded, well...
Just about.
Just about, yeah. It was, fortunately, the knowledge was just damage to the ship, right?
Yeah, oh, yes.
So I got out with the, this is how the Falcon got all its dents and scratches, right?
How thematic.
How thematic.
I feel I've been surprisingly positive about the game. Because as I came into not expecting a whole lot, and I enjoyed it more than I expected to. But I probably should be fair and be honest and say, but ultimately I don't particularly like it, because it is ultimately a pick up and deliver game, and maybe that's my own prejudice against pick up and deliver games. Because as I said, it's less pick up and delivery than I thought it would be, and it does pick up and deliver better than possibly any other pick up and deliver game I've seen. Or I haven't played that many because I don't like them, right? But it does it in a thematic way, and there's a bit of variation to it, but I still ultimately don't like this style of game. And there's some other things I didn't like about it. I didn't like the fact, for example, Like the fact that Ollie was able to go in a circle of points, and whereas I kind of had this to trek all the way across the galaxy. That was kind of frustrating.
Well, it's
I don't understand why.
Sorry, just to add a point over here. It kind of puts the onus on us to burn the cards he needs to do this, and I don't really like that because it doesn't feel very nice. It just feels like we're picking on him then.
And I'll be honest, I did not enjoy the pressure I was feeling every turn to have a good study of these cards and try and pick the optimal one to burn. Yeah. You might have noticed, especially the first 3 or 4 turns, I just didn't burn anything. Yeah. Because I had a quick look, I was like, nothing there is super power OP, but not helpful to me. I'm not going to go through them systematically and be like, that's just not fun. I'm not going to enjoy doing
plus
that.
The other thing is, like, there was a couple of turns where I was, like, looking at burning a card because Ollie could do it, but, it was going to get him, like, 5,000 credits and, a trip
You'd almost rather he takes that than reveal something nicer.
Well, almost, but actually I was thinking more like, it's not that good, it's okay. Yeah. And, I'm going to, I'm only burning it because, there's nothing better for me to burn. Yeah. And it just feels like I'm kind of, sort of taking away something very minor just, because I can. And that doesn't feel very good.
Yeah, so the burn mechanic actually is a bit strange in that sense. And even though I say it does pick and deliver better than many other games, it still adds that random chance you're leaving, which I bloody hate and don't understand.
The dice can feel very swingy in this. It's hard to... Because you need the crew and these things to not mitigate, but sort of mitigate, some of the dice. But I think that the defeat mechanic in this is really frustrating. Just lying down and you lose some money and kind of miss part of your turn. That sucks. But actually, do you know what? Being defeated on a planet...
I was defeated once and it didn't matter because I stood up and was able to do my job.
But that's the thing. Being defeated on a planet is actually okay. Being defeated on a nav point sucks balls.
Because you just stand up and
you just stand up and draw a nav point counter and that's all you can do.
But I guess for the most part, you always stop on planets and I only stopped on a nav point once in the whole game and I did it knowing I was taking a risk.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I also don't understand why, are these planets in a straight line? Why does it take this, the amount of time it takes to get from Tatooine to Nel Hutta versus to get from Tatooine to...
Cantonica.
Yeah, why? That makes that's like...
Well, the
unless
premise
they're in a
is...
straight line, that makes no sense.
The premise is that we are on the outside of this sort of galaxy, right? And the sun's in the middle here, and there's all these sort of central planets. These are all part of the Galactic Empire, and they're very heavily fortified. Right. So instead of going into this Imperial-controlled area, we fly around the outside.
Sure, I guess thematically can make it visually makes no freaking sense.
Yeah, visually it looks weird, but the premise is it's the out. That's why it's called the Outer Rim, right? It's the outer planets of the galaxy.
These are for whatever reason the best way to do the journey.
Well, these are the lanes that are sort of open that don't take you through, that allow you to travel at hyperspace without going through space anomalies.
Thematically, it possibly makes sense. Visually, it looks weird, and additionally, I don't like how long it takes to get from one side of the board to the other.
Doesn't take me long, but I have a very fast ship.
Sure, yeah, but it takes far too long to start the game.
Yeah, agreed.
And I don't like that. I really don't like that. Like a sandbox to me, by definition, almost needs to be a square where you can, and you start in the middle and you can get, you know what I mean? Yeah. It just seems, it's really weird for it to essentially be a back and forth line, and then the fact that it doesn't work in a circle when it's a space.
Well, speaking of that,
it's really weird.
So I was going to say you could argue that the reason it's all puzzle pieces like this is because I've set this out in the suggested setup.
Oh, but you can set up however you want.
But you can randomize these pieces,
that makes sense. I thought of that.
To add replayability. Because all of them link up equally on both sides, which is quite nice. But also, I think it's quite obvious that there's space to add more puzzle pieces. And
maybe it will eventually be a circle.
Maybe it will be a circle, yeah. And that leads me into another theory, which is that these decks are actually quite packed, and you barely see any of these encounter cards. Whereas these decks, like all the ships especially, but these are very light. On cards, and I'm like, but this is the most telling thing about. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's very obvious that these decks are kind of finished. They're not intending to add more cards to them, but these decks have got plenty of room for more cards. But also, this is the most telling thing. These are the story cards, and I actually really like these story cards.
Yeah, I enjoyed that for the most part.
I think that was actually something that was really missing from Western Legends. They tried to do it with, and that's a funny comparison we're making, but
it really works. I think it really works. You first made a comparison.
It has a similar kind of feel, though, doesn't it?
Very similar.
But in Western Legends, you've got those quest cards that you sort of trigger and put down things. Yeah. But the flavor text on them is very light, and sometimes it doesn't seem to sync up. And I feel like the stories in this, especially the stories you get with the characters and the quests, it just feels a bit more narrative.
Absolutely.
But what you've got is this is the story deck, right? And so if you look through, you've got like 92s. Those are the starting cards. You draw random ones. But as we go through the deck, you'll see that there are just massive gaps. It's like, why are there massive gaps? It's almost like they're intending to put more cards into this deck.
It's almost like they've already designed them.
Yeah, it's almost like that. Look at that. There's just 40 to 23. Where are those?
50 as well. Yeah,
where are those cards?
It's
so it's a bit annoying. It's obviously been designed with expansion content in mind.
100%. I think ultimately, I think I would finish up. You might have more to say, but I'd round up my thoughts by saying, I ultimately don't seem to like this style of game, and therefore I didn't particularly like this. But it's one of the better types of this, one of the better of these styles of games I've played, and I would play it again. Like when I go to visit my friend Richard, he will want to play it, and I will play it with him, and I will have fun. Mm-hmm. But I would never suggest it. I won't be buying it. If someone with a larger collection than my friend Richard suggested playing it, I'd probably look at their shelf and be like, ooh, or we could play one of these other games. Mm-hmm. But if I ended up playing it, I'd enjoy it. I'll play it a few more times before I'm done with it.
It's think okay. Under very specific circumstances, I would play this, you see, because, it's the kind of game, because it's not aggressive, it's not so aggressive that I can't, and also it's the kind of game where I can kind of zone out a bit. Like, if I was tired, if I didn't really want to focus on anything very thinky, if I wanted to have some beers and just chill out.
It's a bit too thinky, isn't it? But I suppose not. I
don't know. I don't think so.
It has the potential. You could play it like that,
Yeah,
right?
you could play it like that.
I guess you're right. I guess you could be impressed.
But I don't think I'd feel the benefits of being that thinky about it. Right. Do you know what I mean? I'd invest too much intellect. I think I'd get more frustrated.
Did you just do this by chance, then?
Pretty much, yeah. It was kind of just serendipity, honestly. Nice. I just kept taking opportunities as they came up.
We just left the path open to you to become Han Solo.
Exactly. You just didn't burn all the right cards.
I mean, that's fun. Like, it's a real pity you weren't playing Han Solo. That's really fun that you've basically played Han Solo's origin story.
Yeah, and but I quite like that it's Jinner, so it's a bit like it's a bit like playing Rebellion. It's like this is the alter narrative.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to make up. Like Hera shouldn't be here either, but I like that she.
Last time I played Rebellion, the very last turn of the game, the base was on one of two places, and the very last my last turn of the game, I realized I'd create the new Death Star in one of them, and I blew it up. But it was the other one, and he won by the skin of his. It was like that great narrative moment, right? Mm-hmm. And we had that in this too, and that's great.
So there is a little small amount of scope for sort of alter narrative stories,
which is cool.
to emerge, and I think as they add more content, it will actually become more plausible, or more likely to happen.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, I do have a bunch of games that I like to play, sort of when I'm feeling a bit like chilling out and we're going to have a drink and we're just having a fun time. And I think this fits quite nicely into that slot.
But will you keep it? I was assuming you wouldn't.
I was assuming I wouldn't. But now I'm not sure. Ooh. I think I'd have to... What I think I'll do is I'll keep it around for a while and see if it gets to the table.
Yeah.
See if those moments come up. Because I feel like it's going to be competing with some pretty hot titles for that space.
Could you potentially name one or two of those?
Well, I think my go-to one would be Mansions of Madness. Or even possibly, Lord of the Rings, which is obviously very compatible, all FFG titles, by the way, would really slot in there if it wasn't for the ongoing campaign thing. Because you can't just drop into Lord of the Rings. You kind of just have to start a campaign over every time.
That's true.
Or you could drop in and nobody except the people who've done...
you can do that with.
But Mansions is just scenario-driven, exactly. Yeah. I think the thing about Mansions is it's very hard, and it's a lot more demanding from the players in terms of... And it can feel a lot more frustrating because it's very random, which I don't mind if I'm in the right mindset for that. Whereas this, I think, feels a lot more chilled out because even if I'm not really doing very well, the game's still progressing.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas Mansions, we can't just crap out and die and the game will end.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I quite actually like that sort of chill factor. I think the problem with this is that you really have to be in that zone because it's almost like the more analytical energy you invest in this, the less return you get on it and the more frustrated you'll become.
Yeah.
So I think you just really need to be like sort of it's the end of the day. I'm tired. Let's just run around space for a bit and see if we can find Chewbacca.
I just think the setup's too. There's too much. There's too many bits and pieces for me for this to be a chill at the end of the day game.
You think the setup's not too bad?
I don't want. It's too many. I don't know. I don't want to mess around with this. Excuse me. This many bits and bobs at the end of that kind of game.
Well, the thing is, I think because the thing is, it's like it is still a 2-hour thing, right?
And that's a short game.
And that's a short game. I honestly...
It says 2 to 3 hours in the box.
Yeah, and I don't think I'd ever play it up to 10 or 12. Honestly, ever again. And I don't think I'd play it with 4 either. I think 3...
Update was good.
I don't think 2 actually would be good either. So really, it's very situational.
I'm not sure 2 would be good. I will end up playing this 2 almost certainly. Because
I'd love to hear your thoughts on 2.
Well, next time I visit Richard, we will definitely be playing this 2-player. Well, unless... I think, we almost certainly will. Mm-hmm. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll be interested.
But I'm not gonna I wouldn't play this here with you because you have plenty of other games I'd rather play. Mm-hmm. And if you brought it to my house, I'd be like, but I have all these games I want to play. We can play. Mm-hmm. And whereas it's only because Richard has a much smaller collection and he lives in different countries. When I go to him, I play his games.
But here's the kicker: I've got so many friends that are so excited about this game.
Which was crazy excited about it. He bought it just because he likes Star Wars. Yeah, but if you like Star Wars or like this style of pick up deliver sandbox game, you will freaking love this. If you like Star Wars and this style of game, this is going to be like in your top 10 5 of the year.
But I really like Star Wars. I can pretty much name
I enjoy
all of those ships and their special types before.
Yeah, you're big into X-Men.
Yeah, I was big into X-Men, so I know a lot of this stuff, and I've seen a lot of Star Wars.
I enjoy Star Wars. I find it fun, and I can get into a Star Wars game thematically. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know really. I don't think I'd recommend this.
I'd recommend it for Star Wars fans who like
if you like this game,
type of game.
But that's funny because I feel like the group who get the most out of it are really like sort of casual people
who like Star Wars.
Who like Star Wars, who if you're a board gamer and you've got a lot of friends who like Star Wars but not necessarily board games, this could be a great sort of introduction because
like a gateway game.
I don't know. No, not a gateway game necessarily, but I think if you're into Star Wars, you're probably nerdy enough to get this.
If you're big into Star Wars, yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you're big into Star Wars, if you're the kind of person who knows Star Wars lore, who's going to recognize the G1A Starfighter as Forlom and Zuckuss' ship.
Who are they?
They're 2 of the bounty hunters. One of them was over there somewhere. I think Ollie picked him up. There he is. But. But and I guess that's a bit of a problem. Like, who's this for?
I mean, look, it's like me and Dark Souls, right? Dark Souls, and Dark Souls is to be fair, is a worse design than this by quite a margin. The boss battles are great, in my opinion. I think they're really fun. The encounters are fine once, and then they get crazy, repetitive, and grindy. The overall experience of Dark Souls is lower. It's not as good as this, I think, objectively speaking. But I love the IP so much that I'm all in on that. I'm going to keep it all, and I'm going to play it all. I played all at Richard's a few weeks ago when I was in Ireland, because I love it. I love Dark Souls, and if you are a Star Wars fan, there is actually more to genuinely love here rather than defiantly love, as I do for Dark Souls, right?
Yeah, so that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. But I don't know, should we give people a pass for subpar designs just because we love the IP?
No, I do not recommend this game unless you're a big Star Wars fan. And if you're a big Star Wars fan who watches this, you're obviously also a board game fan. Mm-hmm. If you love Star Wars, have at it. If not, there is better stuff out there, as I think.
If you're the kind of person that hears this,
you're right. Because even if you like Star Wars a lot, we recommend Rebellion. I do instead of this.
Yeah, I mean, right. I think Rebellion's a much different beast, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 2-player only. Well, you can play 4-player, but whatever.
This and Rebellion, in terms of the actual sort of player experience, couldn't be more different.
Yeah, but it's like it's like super thematic.
It's super thematic, If I'm
justifying this as a recommendation because you're a Star Wars fan, then I'm justifying it because it's very thematic, right?
Yeah. If the only reason you're coming here is for the Star Wars theme,
Rebellion's probably better.
Rebellion's a better choice, yeah, because it's just a great game, and it's super thematic as well. Mm-hmm. But if something about the smuggling part of Star Wars really grasps you, I can't think of another good game that realizes Star Wars smuggling as effectively as this.
But if you're a huge Star Wars fan, you're going to want this and Rebellion, right?
If we get niche enough, we'll find people who like this. Just the nichest group.
Look, if you're massive into pick and deliver sandbox games, you already own Western Legends and you already own this. And then if you're a massive Star Wars fan, you want to own Rebellion and you want to own this. It's a good enough design that people who buy it, who like Star Wars and or this style of game, will get pleasure out of it.
Yeah, and there's a few elements here that I find compelling, like the building up of whatever my situation is.
But I accept that overall, I cannot recommend this as a purchase.
Yeah, not necessarily. I think like I said, like we've said, basically, unless you're really into like two very specific things.
Yeah. There are better Star Wars games. There are better FFG games, and there are better sandbox games. Oh, maybe not. Actually, hang on. Maybe there aren't. Yes.
What is a better sandbox game than this?
Fields of Arl. It is sandbox, I guess. I mean, how do you define sandbox in a board game as opposed to video games?
That's the problem, I suppose. I guess it's a game that offers many avenues to victory that are all very clearly distinct. Again, it almost feels like there are many sort of smaller games within it.
Oh, there's lots of... Oh, I mean, I can't think of it off my head, but there are definitely loads of those, and I can probably think of...
I love how this has got to become a thing where we all just beeline towards my board game collection. We're trying to think of examples.
I need to start bringing photographs of my collection.
Anyway, I think we've pretty much covered all of our final thoughts on this.
Yeah.
But we've been hard at it today, so we're going to go and smuggle some beers. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this has given you some insight, useful information into Outer Rim.
Yeah.
And whether this is something you're interested in.
Yeah. That's ultimately for you to decide, not for us to tell you, which we tried to do.
We've done our best to showcase this game experience.
Bye.
We're super good at this.
Do you know what I like? Is that what I don't no one's ever said it before, I don't think, but it's basically become our Race Safe Play signature that we wave for quite some time during an outro, like while we're still talking.
We're so bad at signing off.